Imagine for a moment the rhythmic, sort of subtle hum of sewing machines, in a bustling town like Tiruppur, India.
Hmm.
For decades, that sound has been the heartbeat of livelihoods, stitching garments that, well, they eventually find their way to shelves thousands of miles away, maybe even in your closet.
Yeah, it's a familiar story for global manufacturing.
But lately, that familiar hum, it's grown faint, sometimes it's even broken. Orders have dwindled, sometimes stopped completely, and there's this heavy, almost tangible uncertainty hanging in the air.
It's palpable.
We're diving into a sudden, really a seismic shift in global trade today, one
Yeah.
that's already impacting millions of lives and economies around the world.
And this isn't just theory, is it?
Hmm.
On August 26, 2025, a draft notice was officially released. U.S. Customs and Border Protection.
Right.
And what it announced was pretty staggering, a 50% tariff on all imports from India, taking effect, well, the very next day.
The next day. Wow.
Yeah. This isn't a minor policy tweak. It's a monumental, you could say, aggressive move in the intricate, high-stakes game of global trade. And its repercussions are already being felt deeply.
That immediately grabs your attention, doesn't it? So for this deep dive, our mission is to really understand this tariff tempest.
Good term for it.
We want to explore how we arrived at this point, what this unprecedented 50% tariff really means for everyday people. From those factory floors in India all the way to supermarket aisles, maybe, in the U.S.
And the ripple effects globally, too.
Exactly. What are the wider ripples? We've gathered a stack of fascinating insights for you, from official government announcements, detailed economic analyses, to those really crucial, sometimes heartbreaking on-the-ground reports that show the human cost.
Essential to get that perspective.
Let's start right at the beginning, then, with the immediate shockwave. This wasn't some vague threat, like a political whisper.
No, not at all.
This was a concrete plan. It sprang into action almost instantly. The official notice issued August 26, 2025. And by the stroke of midnight, 12:01 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, August 27th, the rules just fundamentally changed.
That's right. And it's not a suggestion. It's a formal modification to the Harmonized Tariff Schedule of the United States, the HTS-US.
Okay.
What that means, practically, is if a U.S. company imports anything from India, after that, timestamp spices, machinery, textiles, like we mentioned, they pay an additional 50% of the value in taxes.
50% on top.
On top. And what's particularly stark here, really stark, is that there are 0 exceptions listed, not even for essential goods. Nothing.
That 50% figure, it just jumps out. Can you break down what makes up that number? Is it one new thing, or?
Good question. It's not a single new duty. It's actually a layering, you could say, of 2 significant actions.
Okay.
There was an initial 25% tariff announced earlier that reflected broader trade imbalance concerns, plus a separate additional 25% penalty layered right on top.
And then the second part was targeted.
Specifically targeting India's ongoing energy dealings with Russia. This combination, 25 plus 25, brings the total to a level we really haven't seen between major trade partners in decades. It's truly an unprecedented number for modern commerce.
So stepping back a bit, this isn't happening in a vacuum. It reflects a broader tariff wave, maybe?
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. By mid-2025, the average U.S. applied tariff rate has actually climbed to 27%.
27.
27%. That's the highest it's been since the infamous Smoot-Hawley era of the 1930s.
Wow, that's a name from the history books, associated with, well, not great economic outcomes.
Precisely. It's widely associated with deepening the Great Depression through protectionist policies. So this context raises a really important question for us. Why this particular action against India, and why now, with such dramatic immediacy?
It really does feel like a giant high-stakes game of chess, doesn't it? And this latest, incredibly bold move seems aimed at addressing what the U.S. sees as significant imbalances in trade.
That's part of it.
But crucially, it also directly targets India's energy dealings with Russia. That factor has become increasingly contentious, hasn't it?
Increasingly so, yes, on the global stage.
Okay, to really grasp the current drama, this tariff tempest, we absolutely need to rewind the clock a bit. U.S.-India trade relations. They haven't always been this difficult.
Not at all. It's been more like a roller coaster, actually, with some incredible highs.
Right, like in the early 2000s. Things seemed pretty rosy then.
Yeah, definitely. Both nations were fostering strong ties. You had significant deals like the Civil Nuclear Agreement in 2008. That really opened doors.
A period of real growth, collaboration.
Absolutely. By 2024, bilateral trade had just soared. Over $200 billion annually.
So $100 billion.
Yeah. India was exporting a huge array of goods to the U.S. Pharmaceuticals, software services, textiles, gems, you name it. And in return, the U.S. was sending aircraft, machinery, crucial things like liquefied natural gas back to India. It was thriving,
Yeah.
a mutually beneficial partnership.
But the dynamic started to shift, didn't it? Cracks began to show, maybe subtly at first, during Donald Trump's first term, 2017 to 2021.
Absolutely. He often voiced strong criticisms, you remember, about what he called unfair trade practices globally. And in response, imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum from several countries. India was included.
And India retaliated.
Predictably, yes, with its own duties on U.S. products, things like almonds, Harley-Davidson motorcycles, sort of tit for tat.
Okay, fast forward to his return to the White House in 2025. The rhetoric, it sounds like it intensified quite a bit.
Considerably. In April 2025, Executive Order 14257 was issued. That kicked off a wave of what were called reciprocal tariffs on over 90 countries.
90 countries?
Yes. This sweeping measure targeted what the administration viewed as excessive trade barriers being put up by these nations.
And these barriers, just to clarify, they aren't like physical walls, right? They're more subtle.
It's exactly. Much more subtle. Things like high import duties that make foreign goods more expensive, or complex regulations that are just difficult to navigate, or even subsidies that give domestic industries an advantage, making it harder for foreign goods to really compete fairly.
Okay.
Now, from India's perspective, they've long defended these policies. They argue they're essential to protect their huge population of farmers and countless small businesses. These are the backbone of their economy.
You can see their point, protecting local industry.
Right. Picture it like this. If you're a small, local lemonade stand owner, you might want some rules to stop a giant corporation from flooding your market with super cheap drinks.
Makes sense.
But for the U.S. perspective, India's average applied tariff rate around 13%, which is significantly higher than the U.S.'s 2.5%. Well, that looks like a glaringly uneven playing field.
Okay, so you have these trade tensions simmering. Add in the geopolitical stuff.
And the stage was really set for this dramatic escalation. By July 31st, 2025, an additional 25% tariff was specifically announced just on India.
And the reason given for that specific hike?
Directly linked, explicitly, to India's continued imports of Russian oil amid the ongoing Ukraine conflict. This wasn't just talk. It was formalized through Executive Order 14329 on August 6, 2025.
And the title of that order?
Very direct. Addressing threats to the United States by the government of the Russian Federation. It explicitly points to India's role in indirectly supporting Russia by buying its energy resources. The U.S. argues this ultimately funds Moscow's military efforts in Ukraine.
Okay, so let's zoom right in on this official document itself, the one from August 26th. This wasn't a press release, it was law, right? Published in the Federal Register.
Absolutely. Legally binding. It specifies effective 12.01 a.m. EDT, August 27, 2025, the Harmonized Tariff Schedule of the United States, the HTS-US, formally modified.
Meaning
a blanket 50% duty on all products originating from India entering the U.S. We're talking everything. Aromatic Indian spices in your pantry, complex industrial machinery, clothing, textiles, the works.
And just to hammer this home, absolutely no exceptions, not even for, say, essential medicines.
No exceptions listed. None. Plus, the Secretary of Homeland Security gets the authority to make further adjustments as needed. It really underscores the seriousness here. This bold step has already pushed that average U.S. applied tariff rate to that unprecedented 27% we mentioned.
The timing feels critical here. You said it aligns with global pressures.
It does. It's not accidental. Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022 just drastically shifted global energy markets.
Right.
India's decision after that to really ramp up its Russian oil imports, I mean, it was a huge leap from maybe 3% of its total in 2021 to a significant 35–40% by 2024.
That's a massive jump.
It is, and it certainly drew intense U.S. scrutiny. It's seen as a direct catalyst for these tariff actions.
India, though, has its own story. They argue it's about domestic needs, right?
Yes, very much so. They argue they're simply buying oil wherever they get the best deal. The goal is keeping fuel prices low and manageable for 1.4 billion people. They firmly reject the claim this directly funds Russia's war. For them, it's about energy security, economic stability.
It raises an interesting point, though. If India's being hit this hard over Russian oil, what about China? They import even more Russian oil, don't they?
They do. Significantly more. And they aren't facing similar penalties, at least not framed this way.
So why the difference? What's the calculation there?
Well, it suggests a deeper geopolitical calculus, doesn't it? Perhaps Washington sees India as a key partner, a Quad member. that they believe they can still influence or realign without completely derailing other critical diplomatic efforts.
Okay.
Whereas the trade disputes with Beijing are already so broad, so entrenched, maybe adding this specific oil issue wouldn't yield the desired leverage there. Or perhaps it risks escalating tensions in an unmanageable way. It could be about choosing your battles, your tools.
Fascinating. Okay, let's pivot to the impact. These tariffs aren't just numbers. They're hitting real people, real industries, hard.
Absolutely, leaving a tangible impact across India. Let's start with textiles. That's a real powerhouse for Indian exports.
Right. We mentioned Tiruppur earlier, the knitwear capital.
Exactly. That one hub produces nearly 60% of India's knitwear. It contributed a massive $8 billion to the country's $37 billion textile exports last fiscal year, FY25.
Huge numbers.
Huge. And with the U.S. being such a major market, these new duties could push the total tariffs on these goods, well, somewhere between 59% and 64% once you add in existing duties.
59 to 64%,
Yeah.
that's almost prohibitive, isn't it?
It's incredibly difficult to absorb.
And you hear about factories falling silent. It paints a grim picture. Exporters there, like KM Subramanian from the Tiruppur Exporters Association. What are they estimating?
He estimates about 12,000 crore, that's roughly 1.4 billion US dollars of last year's 45,000 crore exports are now at severe risk.
$1.4 billion.
And we've heard these distressing reports of 4,000 crore worth of shipments just abruptly halted in the past 10 days alone. That's forced some factories to just temporarily shut down, production line silent.
And the workers.
Well, this means over 8 to 9 lakh workers in Tiruppur alone. That's 800,000 to 900,000 people, and over 60% are women. Across 2,500 units, they're facing immense anxiety. Just immense.
You hear quotes like, "Burra."
Yeah, the quote, "How will I pay workers?" from one factory owner.
Yeah.
It just crystallizes the human cost behind these big economic figures.
And it's definitely not just textiles, is it? What about carpets?
Another major hit. The carpet industry, very labor-intensive. Regions like Bhadoi, Panipat, Jaipur, Bikaner. India exported $1.5 billion worth of carpets in FY25.
And the U.S. share.
Massive. 60% of that, $920 million, destined directly for the U.S. market.
So what's happened since the tariffs?
Since the announcement, a shocking 70% of orders have either been canceled outright or just indefinitely deferred. Production stalled.
70%.
Yeah. Workers often paid per square foot knitted, they're heading home. Some reports say maybe 50% have already migrated out of certain areas.
Wow.
Piyush Burnwal from the All India Carpet Manufacturers Association, he warns that 2.8 to 3 million lives could be impacted if this continues. Widespread hardship.
And some are thinking of leaving India entirely.
Some exporters are actively eyeing relocation, maybe to Nepal where tariffs are much lower, just 10%. And they might take their skilled workers from places like Bihar and Uttar Pradesh with them.
A potential brain drain or skill drain as well.
Could be.
We also see turmoil in gems and jewelry, right? Especially Surat, the diamond capital.
Yes, Surat polishes something like 90% of the world's rough diamonds. Astonishing figure. Factories there are slowing down. Job loss fears are very real.
And other sectors.
Seafood, especially shrimp. Furniture, too. They're all in the crosshairs. Collectively, this affects about $60.2 billion of Indian exports. And remember, 66% of that normally goes to the U.S.
So connecting this to the bigger picture, it's the smaller guys who suffer most.
Absolutely. It's the micro, small, and medium enterprises, the MSMEs. They're the backbone of India's economy, employing 110 million people.
110 million.
Yeah. They're especially vulnerable. They often lack the financial buffers, the reserves to absorb such huge cost increases. This could potentially lead to widespread closures, significant unemployment spikes across India.
So given all this devastating impact, what's the response from India's leadership? They can't be taking this lightly.
No, definitely not sitting down. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, speaking to small shopkeepers, farmers, he made a very public defiant vow. He said, "We will bear any pressure. Modi will never allow you to be harmed." A strong message of reassurance.
And diplomatically.
External Affairs Minister S. Shankar echoed that, called the tariff hikes unjustified and unreasonable. He very clearly outlined India's red lines for any talks, protecting farmers and small producers above all else. Non-negotiable.
What about the economic levers? The Reserve Bank of India?
Governor Sanjay Malhotra moved quickly, assured special support for those hard-hit sectors, gems, textiles, apparel, shrimps, the MSMEs.
Do they have the resources?
Well, they have substantial foreign reserves, $695 billion, enough for about 11 months of imports. And the RBI has already cut interest rates by 100 basis points, a full percentage point. since February 2025, trying to inject liquidity.
But publicly, they're downplaying the overall impact.
Malhotra maintains a stance of minimal overall impact, expressing confidence in future negotiations to lower the duties. But behind the scenes, what's compelling is India's really aggressive push for diversification.
Looking beyond the U.S. market.
Exactly. That recent free trade agreement with the UK, an upcoming one with the EU, those could potentially offset up to 50% of these losses. Eventually.
But not immediately.
The full benefits might not really be seen until 2026. It takes time for those trade patterns to shift.
Any other immediate measures?
The government took a temporary step, waiving an 11% import duty on cotton until September 30th, 2025, trying to give some relief to textiles. And we hear Tamil Nadu's chief minister, M.K. Stalin, is urging the central government for specific aid for his state's textile sector.
And they're even hiring lobbyists in the U.S.?
Tellingly, yes. Hired a U.S. lobbying firm known to have ties to former President Trump, trying to navigate the corridors of power in Washington. Exporters are also pushing hard, seeking extensions for existing support schemes, revisions to tax remissions, anything to mitigate the losses.
This isn't just U.S.-India, though, is it? This is reshaping global trade. Competitors must be watching closely.
Oh, absolutely. They're poised to gain. Countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh, Turkey, Nepal, they stand to benefit directly by filling the void India might leave.
Any evidence of that yet?
Yeah, look at Vietnam's textile exports to the U.S. Grew 18.5% to $8.54 billion in the first half of 2025. India's only grew 3.3% in the same period. That suggests China and Vietnam could certainly benefit from these diverted supply chains.
And the geopolitics? This could get really interesting, couldn't it? Pushing India closer to China?
It's a distinct possibility. These tensions might actually push India towards China, maybe mending ties strained since that 2020 border clash.
And if that happens?
Well, this emerging bonhomie, if it materializes, could potentially undercut the U.S.-led Quad Alliance. U.S., India, Japan, Australia. We even saw a planned U.S. delegation visit to India get canceled amidst all this. A clear sign of strain.
What about the U.S. side? The administration says tariffs protect jobs, reduce deficits, but there's a cost for consumers, right?
There's always a flip side. Higher tariffs inevitably mean potentially pricier goods. Think about your basmati rice or generic drugs. Indian generics make up 40% of U.S. prescriptions. That impact could be widely felt by consumers.
And the broader economic risks, economists are sounding alarms.
They are? A 25% tariff alone, let alone 50%, could shade 0.2% to 0.4% off India's GDP growth, potentially dipping it below that key 6.5% threshold. And India's big goal, $100 billion in textile exports by 2030. That looks much tougher now.
Are there any potential upsides, any silver linings in this storm?
Well, some analysts argue. Maybe. That these tariffs, while painful now, could actually force India to accelerate its trade diversification, to implement needed economic reforms faster, maybe strengthening its economy in the long run. A tough medicine argument.
So what happens next? All eyes are on negotiations, I suppose.
Definitely. India has about 20 days to formally respond. Options range from retaliation, hitting back with their own tariffs, to challenging this at the WTO, or maybe offering concessions on their own trade barriers.
There were talks before this blew up, right? Aiming to double trade.
Yes, talks aimed at doubling trade by fall 2025. Clearly, those signals were missed or ignored, leading to this collapse.
What do the experts think? Will this break relations or just strain them?
Experts like Ajay Shah suggested this shock could actually clarify India's economic direction, maybe pushing it towards greater openness eventually. Relations will likely be strained, maybe badly in the short term, but they'll probably endure long term given the shared strategic interests in security technology.
And back in Tiruppur, what's the hope there?
Back with Ramesh, that factory worker. The hope is undoubtedly for a quick rollback. Some exporters are optimistically predicting, maybe hoping for, a resolution within 2-3 weeks. Fingers crossed for them.
What a journey through this tariff tempest. We've seen how one policy decision made thousands of miles away can just ripple outwards, impacting factory workers, shifting global supply chains, even starting to redraw geopolitical maps.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? In our interconnected world, no country is an island. Actions in Washington echo loudly in factories, markets, homes across the globe as these trade winds keep shifting. Adaptability, that's going to be key for everyone involved.
So what does this all mean for you listening? It really underscores this delicate balance of interdependence, how intertwined our economies truly are. Perhaps it makes you wonder, beyond the big headlines, what other everyday items in your life might be quietly caught in these unseen cross-currents of global trade disputes you've never even heard about. It's definitely something to mull over, isn't it?